Hey everyone, Warwick's here. So, a little bonus video. I didn't intend to do Warrior or Death Knight, but I kind of wanted to give my thoughts on these two specs because Warrior is a class that I played extensively in Season 2 of Dragonflight, and I like both Warrior specs. I do like DPS Warrior. I think it's got some interesting concepts. It's always fun to see good Warrior players play them. And while I've called for Arms to get a spec rework, as you saw my 3 specs to rework in War Within, you know, on its core, it's still a decent gameplay loop. It's just boring because it's been the same for eons. And Fury Warrior has always been a spec that has attracted a lot of people because it's very fast, very high APM. You're always doing something. This is a tree that I wanted to take a look at because, like I said, I kind of have some love for both of these specs. Would I ever play DPS Warrior as a main again? Actually, I probably would if it was required or asked of me. Not my favorite. I prefer specs where I can play multiple roles, and I'm not a Prout Warrior lover. I can't stand Prout Warrior. I only like it more than Vengeance Demon Hunter. So it'd be tough for me to be a DPS only player when I love tanking and I like healing as well. So playing specs that have that ability is always going to be more important to me. But if needed, I would play it again. So I want to take a look at the Slayer tree, which is for Arms and Fury Warriors, and let's see kind of what they do with the spec. Who did that? That is not important. Apologies. Let me silence my phone. All right, so we're going to start. So if you've never seen me, so what I do with these videos is this is kind of like my first impression of these. I've not really dove into this. I kind of glanced at this, which is why I decided to make this video, but I haven't dove into any other additional news or any other blue posts around it just yet. I haven't dove in and done that research. I've been very busy ever since these trees have released. Soccer season opened up for my son, so I was spending the weekend with him and hanging out. And then Friday, of course, I got some big news at work that's going to keep me very busy at work over the next couple of weeks, most probably, if not in the next couple of months. So we're gonna see. It's a big project that I've got to get started on. Anyways, so I'm just really giving like first impressions. So this is me reading what these things say, reacting to them based on what I know of the specs. Now, I'm not the most knowledgeable DPS Warrior player, so if I get things wrong in this, I'm gonna apologize in advance. This is just my interpretation of what I know of the specs, which I'm going to admit right up front is not complete knowledge. I don't know Arms Warrior like I do Windwalker Monk or Mistweaver Monk or Brewmaster or Guardian Druid, for example. But these are specs that I'm interested in keeping up with and kind of knowing things about. And so I want to give like impressions from someone that's like plays it as an alt or as a casual Warrior player. And hopefully that kind of helps frame my feedback on this. All right, so let's start at the top. Slayer's Dominance. Your attacks have a high chance to overwhelm your target's defenses and trigger a Slayer Strike, dealing low damage and applying Marked for Execution, increasing the damage they take from your next execute by 10%, stacks 3 times. Okay, so we're kind of getting into a heavy execute gameplay loop here, which both specs have played in the past, so this is not going to be anything new to them. Arms Warrior historically has been played sudden death quite a bit, and Fury I know for a decent duration in raid builds, at least you were playing some execute for some better rage generation. So not surprised. Like, I think this is a good start. I think execute's a good way to pick it, particularly because both specs have ways to have execute outside of the execute window. Let's go down the left side. Imminent Demise. Sudden death's chance to reset the cooldown of execute and make it usable on any target regardless of health is increased. Right now I think it's like is it a 20% chance? Let's find out. Let's go look up sudden death. Hang on. Talent trees, warrior. All right, we're on arms, so that's be fine. So sudden death right here. All right, so it's a proc per minute type thing. So 1.7 procs per minute for arms. Let's look at Fury. Same thing. So it's about 1.7 procs per minute, which means that this is probably going to push it up to like 2.5, which means you're going to be using a lot of executes. Cool. Already seeing some good synergy. Using sudden death accelerates your next Blade Storm, striking 1 additional time to a max of 3. Blade Storm's total duration is unchanged. So Fury getting Blade Storm back, which I'm assuming is going to be in this down middle talent here. I'm actually okay with that. I really enjoyed Fury having Blade Storm when I played it in Shadowlands, I think it was when it had it. A little bit of time I spent some time doing Warrior there and just messing around with it. And Fury having Bladestorm is actually kind of nice. It gave him a little bit of a way to have more bursty AoE. So getting it back, I think, is fine. And getting an additional potentially 3 ticks worth of damage inside that 3-second window is like going to be really powerful. So it's going to tick basically like every half second, which is good. Go. Overwhelming Blades. Each strike of Bladestorm applies Overwhelm to all enemies, increases damage taken by 1% for 10 seconds. So every time you Bladestorm, you're going to get a stacking damage taken buff for 10 seconds. Again, every time you stack this, does it increase the duration? And then when Bladestorm ends, you're starting your 10-second countdown. If it works like that, then I think that's really nice. Developers note Fury will also have access to Bladestorm via specialization talents in the War Within. So that basically says, hey, Fury, you're going to get Bladestorm back, which I think is good. Like I said, I'm a fan of this. Relentless, let's go down here. Death, actually, let's just go across. I'm going to change it up this time. Relentless Pursuit. Charge removes all movement and pairing effects and grants you 70% movement speed for 3 seconds. Really good for PvP. Mythic Plus, it could be pretty good. For Raid, I don't really see it having a bunch of value. Viscous Agility. Heroic Leap reduces the cooldown of charge by 5 seconds, and charge reduces the cooldown of Heroic Leap by 5 seconds. I like that. That's really good. I love things that synergize off of mobility. Heroic Leap, mobility. Charge, mobility. So having these things synergize off of each other is actually really good. I like that a lot. I probably would play Vicious Agility all the time, just because that seems cool. All right, Death Drive. You heal for 50% of the damage dealt by sudden death. Wow. Okay, so for arms, that's pretty big actually, because Execute for arms, it's pretty fucking hard, especially when you run, was it Mark for Death, I think is what it is called, where you can do like a 750,000 execute the first time you get into the execute phase, and then healing for 325,000 of that or 375,000 of that. That's a huge fucking heal for arms. Fury a little less so. It kind of depends on the tuning of execute for Fury. It's never hit as hard as it does for arms. It still hits pretty hard, so that's pretty good sustain for a spec that kind of lacks it. Slayer's Reflexes. Slayer strikes have a chance to reset the cooldown of Bloodthirst and Overpower, or you just get consistent 10% CDR. I think Slayer's Reflexes is probably going to be, I think Slayer's Reflexes is probably going to be better, because just having those buttons reset and available more is going to be better than just having 10% cooldown. Bloodthirst is like a 4-second cooldown, so you're talking 0.4 seconds off of it, so it's a 3.5-second cooldown. Doesn't seem like a lot. Overpower, I think, is roughly the same. It's like a 4-second cooldown. So constant pressure doesn't really feel like it's going to be all that impactful, whereas just straight up getting a reset when you Slayer Strike, it's probably going to be good. We'll have to see. It kind of depends. There's still some ability tweaks that need to happen, but my gut right now tells me Slayer Reflexes is going to be better. All right, next one. Tunnel Vision. Your auto attack speed increases while you are in combat. Changing targets resets this effect. So obviously pure single target type setup. You think of a fight like Volcaros, Smolderon. Those are the types of fights where that's going to be useful. Obviously, we'll have to see what the rage generation situation looks like. Like, I know towards the end of certain expansions, I don't know if it's the case for this one for arms, but you kind of have almost too much rage based on everything that's going on. So having more auto attack speed, which means more rage, is going to be interesting, but we'll see. Or you get Thrill of the Kill. Execute increases your auto attack speed for 10 seconds. I think for AoE, Thrill of the Kill is obviously going to be good, because you could tab target, execute, and kind of cheese it a little bit and get that buff on a fairly consistent uptime. But even then, it's execute, which is the last few seconds, and generally speaking, if you've got a bunch of mobs in execute phase, they're not living all that long anyways. So it's especially if like you have a Windwalker with Cleave Touch of Death, which is stupid, by the way. They're just all gonna die, and you're not really gonna get to take advantage of execute all that much. So interesting. I think Thrill of the Kill is probably better in Mythic Plus by default, just because you are target swapping. Whereas Tunnel Vision is going to be very good in kind of pure single target raid scenarios, or scenarios where I think of like Nimue, where you are on a target, but then you switch targets, but then you're on that target for a solid 15-20 seconds. And it kind of depends on how long it takes for Tunnel Vision to ramp up. Like, how quickly does the buff happen? Or is there like an internal cooldown on the buff when you target switch, where like the first 5 seconds you're not going to get the buff at all, and then you get it again? Like if that's the case, then I think that's very bad. So there's a lot of questions I have, like mechanically, about how tunnel vision works. Slay. Yas Queen, Slay. Marked for execution increases the critical strike chance and damage of your next execute on the target by 5%. Sure, fine. Yeah, cool. This probably should have been way up here, but whatever. Frenetic Flurry. Overpower and Bloodthirst have a chance to cause you to unleash a brief Blade Storm, striking all enemies around you at once. You can now use Pummel and Stormbolt while Blade Storming. That's actually big quality of life. And for Fury, I'm already thinking this is probably going to push you into a Bloodthirst type build, where you want to empower Bloodthirst, because you get a lot of stuff that procs off of Bloodthirst in this build. So, depending on your feelings on that, could be a good or bad thing. But Pummel and Stormbolt while Blade Storming, that should just be a thing that you can do anyways. Like, let's be real. I know, again, PvP probably is a big reason for that, but you're not really taking Blade Storm in PvP anymore. Like, you take the Mark for Death so that when you get someone down low, you can, like, fucking kill them. So, we'll see. Slayer's Focus. Overpower and Bloodthirst damage increased by 10%. Sure, these are basic fillers. These are not big, massive parts of your damage profile. Overpower really just there to empower Mortal Strike. Bloodthirst really just to be there to give you Rage for eventual rampages. So, giving these a small damage boost. It's boring this far down in the tree. Like, this row feels like it should be switched with the second row. But sure. Unrelenting Onslaught. When you execute a target that you've marked for execution, reduce the cooldown of Blade Storm by 5 seconds per stack of marks of execution. This stacks up to what, 3 times? So you can get up to 15 seconds off of Blade Storm. If I recall correctly, the cooldown is 90 seconds, so you're talking getting it to a 75-second cooldown. It's not bad. And then apply stacks of Overwhelmed equal to the number of stacks of marks for death that the execution target had. So it basically just cycles through. Oh, it gives you 3 stacks of your Overwhelmed, which gives you 3% extra damage for 10 seconds. Okay, this is... I think it kind of ends on a little bit of a weak note, but honestly, I think this tree overall is pretty good for both specs. Like, I feel pretty good about how this one feels. Obviously, professional warriors, please tell me if I'm wrong. But yeah, this feels like it's not that bad. And overall, I don't hate it, but we'll have to see. I think this is a pretty decent tree. I'm going to give it like a 7 out of 10. And that's mainly because... And it could go 8 with some tuning and some tweaks to little things, but there's nothing here that feels like it drastically contradicts itself like you see in Pack Hunter for Survival and BM. So overall, I think this is just a pretty solid tree. How does it compare to Mountain Thane or Colossus? I don't know. I haven't really dove too deep into either of those. I know Mountain Thane for Fury and Prot does a lot of has a lot of strong AoE potential because of Blood and Thunder and Thunderclap. So this might be a more single target oriented situation where you play this in raid and play Mountain Thane if you're a Fury Warrior. For Colossus, I've heard mixed reports on it. I think this one's actually pretty decent. Plays into a big strength of Arms Warrior, which is the execute window, which has always been like a niche that Arms has had over almost every other spec outside of MM Hunter in terms of having a very strong execute phase. So I think this just plays into that niche a little bit more, which if the last 20% of a boss fight is the most important damage phase, then that makes Arms Warrior really, really valuable. And this is going to lean into that class fantasy. So I think it's good. I think it's good. I'd say even be willing to push it up to an 8 out of 10. I think this is a really good tree. Obviously, we'll have to see how the numbers tune against each other. And there's a couple of abilities like Relentless Pursuit that for PvE purposes are there. I have some questions about how Tunnel Vision and Thrill of the Kill work. And same thing with Constant Pressure. But once I can do more research on it, and maybe I get those questions answered. If not, then we're just going to have to play with it and find out. So overall, I think this is a pretty solid tree. I'm pretty happy if I'm like an outsider again to Warrior looking in. But if you play Warrior more often or you play it more full time, please let me know if I'm anything that I'm missing or things that I don't understand. I'd love to learn. So help me out in the comments if you think that I've missed something that is really important that makes this tree better or worse than what I feel that it is. And remember to like, share, and subscribe. Of course, I got to do the YouTube simping stuff. But until the next video, I hope you all stay safe. Hope you're enjoying yourself. If you're having fun, you keep on gaming. And I will see you all in the next video.